The ugliest weapon in the Allied arsenal wasn't born in a polished design room or drafted by a famous engineer. It didn't look heroic. It didn't feel elegant, and no soldier ever bragged about how good it looked slung over their shoulder. In fact, when men first saw it, they joked that it resembled a piece of plumbing someone had dragged in from behind the barracks. A crude metal tube, a simple wooden grip, stamped parts that rattled when shaken, and yet, in the unforgiving jungles of the Pacific, this strange contraption would quietly rise to become one of the most effective firearms the Allies ever carried. Its name was the Owen Gun, and the story behind it is more incredible than its appearance suggests. It began long before the war was raging at full force. Australia, isolated and stretched thin, had always been forced to improvise. The continent relied heavily on foreign supplies for modern weapons, and when global tension began to climb, local factories scrambled to experiment with new designs. In the middle of all this stood a young man named Evelyn Owen, barely out of his teens, soft-spoken and endlessly tinkering. His workshop was filled with metal scraps, tools, and half-built ideas. He wasn't a soldier, he wasn't a seasoned engineer, and no official office wanted to hear about some experimental submachine gun from a backyard inventor. But he kept working anyway, sketching, filing, shaping, imagining a weapon that could keep firing even when soaked in mud, caked in sand, or rattled by the thick, choking humidity of the jungle. By the late 1932, his creation existed only as a clunky prototype. It looked nothing like the sleek submachine guns of Europe or the iconic Thompson of the United States. And yet, there was something different about it. A top-mounted magazine that fed rounds downward with gravity's help, an enclosed bolt that resisted dirt, and a simple blowback design that could survive conditions where other guns jammed and died. But to everyone else, it looked like a toy, or worse, a waste of time. Owen tried to show it to the Australian Army, but no one took him seriously. The story goes that he brought it to a military officer, fired a demonstration shot, and received nothing but polite nods and quick dismissals. The world had not yet exploded into total war, and no one was interested in backing a strange weapon from an unknown inventor. Then everything changed in 1941. The Pacific erupted. Australian troops were deployed into impossible jungles, where visibility fell to inches, where weapons rusted overnight, and where the enemy moved with silent precision. Soldiers discovered that the firearms issued to them, weapons designed for open fields and clean environments, struggled terribly in the wet, suffocating terrain. A gun could be immaculate in the morning and jammed by noon. Rain poured endlessly. Mud swallowed everything. The Japanese, trained in jungle warfare, maneuvered with frightening speed. The Allies needed a weapon that could survive this world, something rugged, simple, and absolutely dependable. Only then did someone finally remember the odd little gun from the young man no one wanted to listen to. Owen, who had since joined the army, was reassigned and told to bring his strange invention back into the light. Engineers examined it again, this time with a completely different attitude. War had a brutal way of forcing people to reconsider things they once ignored. Factories were ordered to reproduce the design. At first, they mocked its appearance, joking that it would frighten no one except the poor soldier forced to carry it. But as they started testing it, their laughter faded. In trials filled with dust, water, and mud, the Owen gun refused to quit. They buried it in sand, shook it through leaves and debris, and dragged it across wet ground, and it kept firing. Other weapons jammed early in the trials. The Thompson struggled. The British Sten, with its side magazine and open bolt, turned into a nightmare. But the Owen remained stubbornly reliable, spitting out round after round with the casual resilience of a machine built for suffering. Word spread quietly among soldiers that something strange was happening. A homegrown Australian invention, dismissed for years, was suddenly outperforming some of the most respected firearms in the world. But this wasn't the end of the story. It was only the beginning. Because the Owen gun wasn't just engineered for the jungle, it became a symbol of what desperation, creativity, and pure necessity could forge when a nation had no choice but to rely on its own hands. And as the Pacific Campaign intensified, the jungles would become the ultimate judge of whether this ugly, unconventional weapon truly deserved a place in the hands of men fighting for survival. When the Owen gun finally reached the front lines, no grand ceremony announced its arrival. Crates were delivered quietly to units deep in New Guinea, where Australian soldiers were battling exhaustion, disease, and an enemy that seemed to appear from the shadows. At first, men eyed the new weapon with skepticism. They preferred what they already knew, even if it jammed or weighed too much. But the jungle was merciless, and in combat, trust is earned quickly or lost forever. The first real test came during patrols, where rain hammered the canopy without pause, turning the ground into a slick field of muck. Troops pushed forward through thick vines, their uniforms soaked and their gear heavy. That's when the differences between weapons became painfully obvious. A soldier armed with a Thompson found his gun struggling after the rain soaked through its action. Another man carrying a Sten discovered that the smallest amount of debris could lodge inside the bolt and seize everything. The jungle had no mercy for intricacy, but the Owen kept going. Men discovered they could drop it in the mud, pick it up, shake it once, and fire without hesitation. They learned that its balance odd at first actually helped them keep control during close quarters, where engagements happened at frighteningly short distances. The top-mounted magazine wasn't just a quirky design choice. It protected the feeding system from dirt and allowed soldiers to shoot from low, crouched positions without the magazine hitting the ground. And because gravity assisted the rounds, even a dirty gun kept cycling. Stories began spreading from one unit to another. A patrol ambushed in a sudden burst of gunfire reported that their Owen guns were the only weapons that fired back immediately, without jam or misfire. Another squad wrote in their report that the gun had run flawlessly after being dragged through a swamp during a chaotic retreat. Even officers who had once laughed at its appearance began to speak differently. They realized that in a war where terrain was as much an enemy as the opposing army, the Owen gun wasn't just reliable, it was transformational. The weapon's performance reached the point where soldiers started customizing it in small ways. They tied strips of cloth around the magazine well to keep rain from dripping in. They used tape or rope to secure the handguard. But none of this was necessary for the gun to function. It was simply the personal touch of men who had grown attached to a tool that kept them alive. In fact, Australian troops began to trust the Owen so deeply that many refused to trade it for more famous weapons offered by American units. The Thompson, with its iconic look and powerful .45 cartridge, was admired but in jungle combat, admiration didn't matter as much as the certainty that your gun would fire every time. There was one moment, retold again and again, that cemented the Owen's reputation. During comparative trials, Australian testers deliberately contaminated different guns with wet mud, a thick, sticky mixture that no firearm should ever encounter. The Thompson jammed. The Sten jammed. The Austin, an Australian-made attempt to blend Sten and German designs, choked almost immediately. But the Owen? The testers fired full magazines without malfunction, even though the gun was so dirty that mud dripped out of the ejection port. Soldiers heard about this back at camp, and the story became legend almost overnight. Yet the Owen's success wasn't just about engineering. It also reflected Australia's wartime mindset. The nation was fighting far from home, on terrain few had ever imagined. Supplies from overseas were limited, and the enemy moved with terrifying speed. In that environment, innovation had to be local. Factories repurposed civilian tooling, workers improvised new methods, and engineers refined the design endlessly. What emerged was a weapon that represented Australian ingenuity at its purest, rough on the outside, but built with stubborn practicality. And then came the personal accounts. One soldier recalled being pinned down on a hillside thick with ferns and rotting logs. Every gun around him stopped firing in the damp chaos, but his Owen kept barking through the rain. Another man described crawling face down through mud while bullets snapped overhead, dragging his weapon beneath him. He expected it to fail when he needed it most. It didn't. To him, it felt almost alive, a companion that demanded nothing and delivered everything. These accounts were not polished or exaggerated through time. They were raw, written in field journals, letters home, and after-action reports. And they built a reputation that traveled through the ranks like wildfire. Whenever new recruits arrived, they were told the same thing. If you're heading into the dense green darkness of the jungle, take the gun that never quits. The irony was impossible to ignore. The weapon mocked for looking ridiculous was rapidly becoming the most trusted firearm in the Pacific. The gun, built by a young inventor dismissed as a dreamer, was outperforming famous Allied designs crafted by veteran engineers. And while it remained aesthetically unremarkable, a metal tube with a magazine stuck awkwardly on top, it carried a quiet strength that every soldier could feel in their hands. As the war pressed deeper into the islands, the Owen gun wasn't just surviving the jungle, it was mastering it. And by doing so, it was about to earn a place in history that no one, not even its creator, could have predicted. By 1944, the Owen gun had earned a reputation so strong that even foreign commanders took notice. American units working alongside Australian troops began asking to borrow it, not because they lacked weapons of their own, but because they saw with their own eyes what happened when rifles and submachine guns met the deep jungle. The Owen didn't care about mud, it didn't care about rain, it didn't care about the claustrophobic slopes, the vines, the insects, or the constant drum of water dripping from the canopy. It simply worked. But the true measure of its greatness came during some of the darkest, most intense moments of the campaign: narrow valleys, where visibility fell to a few feet, steep ridges where soldiers climbed hand over hand, and hidden paths where the enemy could be so close that men breathed the same humid air without seeing each other. In this chaos, reliability meant survival. And when everything else jammed, when even the bravest men felt fear pushing into their lungs, the Owen proved itself again and again. One of the most famous accounts came from a patrol caught in a sudden ambush. Visibility evaporated under gunfire, branches snapping like bone, dirt exploding upward. Several automatic weapons seized instantly as grit blew into their chambers, but the Owen guns on the line kept firing without hesitation. Those precious seconds of functioning firepower allowed the patrol to break contact and slip back into the foliage with casualties far lower than they feared. The weapon didn't just perform, it saved lives. Another story came from a soldier who survived an assault on a jungle ridge. The ground was soaked, every step sending mud cascading downward. He fell, dropped his weapon, and slid through a stream of dirty water before scrambling to his feet. Most guns would have been finished after that. His Owen fired the instant he pulled the trigger. The moment stayed with him for the rest of his life. By this stage of the war, the Owen was no longer considered an oddity. It was respected, requested, and fiercely protected by those who carried it. Soldiers swapped stories the way men do when they've seen too much quiet words around dim lamps, whispered recollections in foxholes, moments of truth shared only with those who understood. And woven through those stories was the same sentiment. This ugly little gun had become a lifeline. When the war finally ended, the Owen gun's legacy continued quietly, without fanfare. It served long after the Pacific battles ended, deployed in conflicts where jungles, rain, and rough terrain still challenged armies. It wasn't replaced because it failed. It was replaced because time moved on and newer designs eventually took its place. But veterans who carried it never forgot what it did for them. They remembered its weight, its strange balance, the feel of the top-mounted magazine brushing their cheek, and the deep reassurance that no matter what the jungle threw at them, the gun in their hands was going to work. And perhaps the most remarkable twist of all is how close the Owen gun came to being discarded before it ever saw battle. If Evelyn Owen had given up after being ignored, if the military had never revisited his design, if the war in the Pacific had not exposed the fatal weaknesses in other weapons, the Owen gun might have remained just a pile of sketches and metal scraps in a forgotten workshop. Instead, it became a symbol of what ingenuity can achieve when necessity pushes hard enough, a rough, unpolished creation that outperformed weapons from wealthier nations and more sophisticated factories. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't glamorous. It didn't make for dramatic pictures or heroic posters. But it earned something far more important than appearances. It earned trust. And long after the fighting stopped, long after the jungles fell silent and the veterans returned home, the Owen gun remained one of the clearest reminders that in war, the most valuable tool is not always the one that looks the part, but the one that refuses to fail when everything else does. A weapon born in a backyard, dismissed as a curiosity, mocked for its shape, and yet, in the most brutal terrain of the Pacific, it stood taller than them all. The ugliest gun in the Allied arsenal became the most dependable. And for the men who relied on it, that reliability made all the difference.